Welcome to this explainer on training for happiness in difficult times. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating framework from Happywise, and honestly, it completely redefines how we look at our own well-being. It's a real game changer, so let's dive right in. We often think of happiness as this fleeting emotion, right? Sort of like the weather. It just happens to us. One day it's sunny, the next it's raining. But the truth? It's entirely different. Happiness is actually a capability. It's something you build intentionally and methodically during periods of relative calm, so it's right there waiting for you when you need it most. Now, to really grasp why we need to train for this, let's start with a pretty provocative question. Think about it. If power and status are the ultimate goals society tells us to chase, why do so many powerful leaders reach the absolute top of the mountain only to feel profound regret? Well, research reveals something kind of fascinating. It turns out that beyond a certain threshold of having basic resources and security, getting more power, status, or income actually yields diminishing returns on our well-being. In fact, highly successful people often share three massive regrets. They regret not doing more good in the world, neglecting their loved ones, and letting themselves be entirely consumed by the daily, nonstop urgency of their work. So, where exactly does all this regret come from? Usually, it's from a really costly confusion between two completely different things. First, you've got pleasure. Pleasure is triggered by external stimuli. It's intense, immediate, and private. You consume it, and poof, it's over. But true happiness? That's a state of deep, stable inner harmony. It's built over time through consistent mental practices. And the beautiful part is, it literally multiplies when you share it with others. When we spend our lives chasing only pleasure, we end up losing a sense of deep meaning. Happywise frames this profound loss using those haunting words by H.D. Thoreau, who wrote that most people go to the grave with the song still inside them. Your song is basically your specific combination of values, your abilities, and that unique contribution that only you can give to the world. Finding true well-being means having the courage and creating the right conditions to discover that song and finally let it resound. And to let that song play, especially when life gets incredibly hard, we absolutely have to build resilience. Now, resilience isn't just some magical ability to bounce back like a rubber band. Not at all. It's a robust system of mental, relational, physical, and spiritual resources that you've deliberately accumulated long before a crisis even hits. Think of it as your personal stockpile for the tough times. A super crucial part of building up that stockpile is learning how to distinguish normal grief from clinical depression. And the decisive difference here is what we actually do with the pain. See, processed pain is acknowledged, it's experienced, and eventually it's integrated so it can pass. Avoided pain, on the other hand, well, that just sets in. It festers and becomes chronic and ultimately paralyzing. Okay, so the big question is, how do we actively process that pain? It all comes down to concrete, everyday practices. The first is expressive writing. Just the simple act of putting your difficult experiences into words actually helps your brain mentally integrate them. The second practice is selective presence. This just means giving yourself permission to sit with the pain for a moment. You remain in that difficult experience with full awareness, without instantly fleeing or trying to distract yourself. So how do we practically train for all of this? It rests on a system of 4 core pillars. First is being, making the deliberate choice to be fully present. Second is us, nurturing deeply vulnerable relationships rather than just superficial ones. Third is discipline, the consistent day-by-day building of habits. And fourth, positive chemistry, literally leveraging your own biology through exercise, hydration, and good nutrition. Now, if we bring this framework over into the professional world, this infrastructure entirely shifts how we view the workplace. Organizations have got to stop asking the old extraction-based question, how do I squeeze out more performance? Instead, the new question has to be, what conditions am I actively creating so my people can give their best without burning out? Fostering that kind of sustainable environment means building contexts where people can actually remain human under pressure. We're talking about creating spaces for genuine listening, not just running through operational updates. It means recognizing actual contributions rather than just end results. It requires allowing guilt-free recovery time, and crucially, developing emotionally capable leaders who know how to regulate a team's emotional climate. Ultimately, the single most important takeaway from this explainer boils down to a brilliantly simple metaphor. No one builds foundations during an earthquake.
Seriously, it is practically impossible to suddenly invent coping mechanisms when the ground is already shaking and you're in the middle of a full-blown crisis.
Because at the end of the day, happiness is a trained muscle. It's a comprehensive system of cognitive, relational, physical, and spiritual resources that you build methodically during the calm times. By putting in the work today, you guarantee that when life storms inevitably arrive, you'll have the profound strength to navigate them with grace. So I'll leave you with this. What single habit will you start training today to build your foundation before the storm? Thanks so much for joining me, and keep building those muscles.